Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. Roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have,
you'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right?
Yeah.
I want a man's coolant.
and he's like, "Oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light."
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West. Internet.
Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
Book 2, on off topic. Hello, Brad.
Evening, Andrew. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
So far so good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The,
Today is officially. I'm gonna go right into it. Like it's standard operating procedure. It's time for a weather update. Today is our first genuine fall Phoenix day.
So it's 95?
No, it was like in the 80s today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This morning it was 60 something degrees outside. It was absolutely beautiful. It only got to 80 something today, and it's already back down probably I'd say to the high 70s. So
Yeah, I know you broke like weeks records.
oh yeah,
of 100
it's
degrees.
not even a conversation of how many records we broke this year. Not highest temperature, that's for sure, but most days over 110. So it's fine. Everything's fine. Dog drinking coffee meme.
Your cars run cool.
Every one of them runs cool. None of them overheat ever. I didn't overheat in multiple cars in the past few weeks. Definitely not. That being said, I'm not sure the difference between 90 and 110 is going to make a car overheat.
It's a dry heat.
The car
Should
doesn't
make
care.
them dry out.
Yeah, the car doesn't care. But you know what I mean? Like, again, I've said it before. Like, I really genuinely don't think that the difference between 90 degrees and 110 degrees is going to make a difference when the car is supposed to operate at 180 degrees anyway. So it's fine. My cars don't overheat because I live in Phoenix. My cars overheat because they're garbage. They overheated in Massachusetts too sometimes. Although I guess we might as well just jump right into it. I overheated, sort of. Not actually overheated, but because I caught it before it overheated. Obviously, I've been talking about the Colt the past few weeks. So I took the Cressida out this past weekend, which again, I had just driven all the way up and down the hill after lauding it being one of the more reliable cars that I have. And I was just going to an event that I'll complain about later because it's my turn to complain about car events. Didn't go to that event. And after not going to that event, I pulled over and was idling while just checking directions and traffic to the other event I was going to go to instead because of construction and road closures. And as I'm sitting there, I went to drive away and I saw that it was almost to the overheating point. I was like, oh, that's not good. Let me start driving and see if moving air across it makes it go down. And it did, thankfully. But every time from that point on that I came to a stop at a stoplight, and the stoplight was longer than, 15, 30 seconds, the temperature would go up again. So I got to, I was already well away from my house, all the way over in Scottsdale. So I was like, well, I'm going to carry on and make it all the way to 4 till 4, because at least I know if I'm there, other people will be there. And worst case scenario, I can either get, some help with some tools, hopefully, or somebody can bring me to get some coolant or whatever I might need. But I got there and opened the hood and the fans weren't on. So I said, okay, the car has an electric fan conversion and it has the little probe that goes in the radiator to tell the fans when to come on or off. And the probe has this metal lead on it that goes to a little control box that's mounted on the inner fender behind the battery. And I had put a new battery in it before I drove it to Williams a couple weeks ago. And I think I must have bumped that probe and it slid the probe out of the actual radiator.
Oh.
So my guess is that my entire drive up and down the mountain to get to Williams, I did not have functioning fans. So
Doesn't matter at speed.
Correct. Thankfully, the system is efficient enough, and I did not sit in any traffic on that trip, and it never did get warm, and I never noticed I had no fans because it never got warm. So that could have been ugly on the drive home Sunday morning because it was quite hot down here in the valley when I got down here. And, once you get into traffic, there is some stoplights and some stop and go, but it wasn't enough to cause any concern, I guess. So slightly concerning that I had no fans, but also it worked, so it's fine. The issue now, though, is that I put that probe back into the radiator where it belongs, and I still have no fans. So I wonder if I broke something when I bumped everything with the battery putting it together. So I haven't had a chance to get in there and look yet because that was Saturday morning, and there's been a ton of garage stuff happening, and I haven't had much of a chance to look at anything. But I'll go out there and I'll power the fans directly and make sure they work. And then I'll see, where the power is not going to the fans and what's happening. So at the moment, the car is down, of course, 1 week before the Arizona Rising Sun Rally. So there's that. So that'll get fixed hopefully this week. And if not, then I guess I won't take it. We'll just add it to the list of broken things that Brad doesn't have time to fix right now. So Cressida currently down. But like I said, it didn't actually overheat when it was moving because the car doesn't care if it's 100 degrees out or 70 degrees out because the car runs at 180 to 200 degrees normally. So whatever. I'm sure the extra heat and ambient temperature from the pavement does affect that, but overall, it shouldn't affect it too much. So frustrating, as always, but that's old car life, right?
Yeah. I guess so.
When you don't have a normal car, you better have 10 old ones so that at least one is not broken. I think I have one that's not broken, maybe two. So,
well, you have a garage pretty soon to fix them in.
More than pretty soon. I mean, I could start using the garage today. The only reason I'm not using the garage is because I want to do some stuff before I start filling it with stuff. But as of this week, I have electricity, and I have doors, and I have everything needed to have an operational garage. We have the city inspector coming out tomorrow to give us the final. It's not like an occupancy permit because we're not living in the thing, but it's the final inspection. This building is now good to be used as a garage. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that all goes well. I don't see why it won't because he's passed he's come by and passed it for everything else up to this point. So if he fails it now, it'll be weird, but I guess we'll see what he says. So inspection is tomorrow. And none of this is obviously without some drama. So the garage door company installed the garage doors, and I went out there, and Naomi went out there, and we said, this is not what we paid for. So they're going to have to come back and do that again because the garage doors are incorrect, which is frustrating. But they looked at the paperwork for what they ordered, and what they ordered was what we ordered, and what they received to install is not what they ordered. So they know that it's on their end somewhere, and they've already said that they're going to come back and replace everything that's wrong. So what happened is the doors that we had and what we paid extra money for was a high clearance door that's supposed to follow the pitch of the roof. And what we got was a sort of high clearance door that instead of having like a 90-degree bend in the top of the rails where the garage doors goes up into it, has like a 45-degree bend. So they go up a little bit, but they hang 5 feet down from the roof pitch. So we don't want 5 feet down from the roof pitch because we paid extra to have doors that follow the roof pitch so that we have plenty of ceiling height for the eventual lifts and possibly a loft off to the side. So they had to come back and fix that, but it is what it is. That's a minor annoyance, but at least they're obviously going to honor what we paid for. So they'll come by and fix that as soon as the parts come in. But because it has to follow the roof pitch, it was supposed to be a custom made like channel for the door to run up to actually follow that pitch. So have to wait on that. But everything else in there is good to go. All of the walls are finished. They're mudded. Naomi and I primed the entire building inside, all the way up and over the ceiling. We started to tape off from 8 feet down. So we're going to leave the top roof section in the white, kind of off-white primer, which is good for the light to bounce off of the LED lights we had installed in the ceiling. But then from 8 feet down, we're going to do like a medium gray, not a dark gray, but like a medium gray, just to define the wall from the ceiling and give it more of a finished look. So I think it'll be a good color to it will hide some dirt and stuff because it's a garage. You're going to touch the wall. I don't want to have a white wall. So it'll be a little bit better for that. And it'll just look finished in there. So, and you'd be happy to know, Andrew, that the lights are installed and there are 0 hexagon-shaped lights in the garage.
I'm disappointed. How are you going to
I hope you're not. I hope you're not disappointed. They are 4 round can lights that are hanging from the ceiling. They're all LEDs. They are dimmable, but I don't have dimmable switches, so I might change up the switches eventually. But they're quite bright, no question. I'm very happy with them. My electrician had them, quote unquote, left over from a warehouse job. So I don't know where they came from or how they came from, but they're here. And they are industrial warehouse lights, and they are super bright, especially with the whole building being white. So I'm not concerned about having lighting as far as overall lighting goes. I'll just need some lower level lighting because obviously if you're in there working on a car with the hood up, having the lights directly overhead is going to cause a nasty shadow on what you're working on. So I'll put some additional lighting, wall lights and lights on batteries and whatnot to use under hoods. So I'm pretty excited. It's gone from a thought to hey, maybe we can do this to okay, we figured out financing. All right, we have a garage company, and the biggest stress was getting drywall guys. So it's all done, and everything is good to go now. So garage projects will start hopefully next week. I'll have cars in there next week, working on them next week. So I can fix the Cressida's overheating problem in the new garage. And I'm excited.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All good stuff. So since I went ahead, Andrew, and just started this podcast on project car updates, you might as well go into your car. Because I don't think I did anything else.
Yeah, I didn't get as much done this week as I would have liked to. I wanted to get the engine block out. I just didn't get to it. I ended up trying to clean the transmission, which was a lot more caked with dirt than I thought, and I should have brought my pressure washer over to use. Instead, I was doing it by hand and a scraper. So I think it was covered with undercoating and then had dirt and oil on top of it.
Okay. Interesting.
like original factory undercoating. It
Interesting.
was pretty thick. Yeah, it was pretty thick. Whole car has undercoating on it. That's definitely like factory applied or dealer applied. That really thick, rubbery stuff.
It's probably one of the things that saved the car, right?
Probably. I mean, all the mud is stuck to it. It definitely needs another cleaning, but
It's funny because
yeah,
sometimes that old mud and caked on dirt is the hardest thing to get off because all of the soaps and all the specialized car products are designed to like cut grease but not mud. I
yeah,
had the same issue with that 81 Cressida when I pulled it out of the desert. Like power washing the bottom of it, I could get all the stuff off, but the mud would just stay caked on the car.
yeah. I gotta like put it on jack stands when the car's running, and then like use the pressure washer with the. I've got the little soap tank in it, and just let it soak with some Simple Green. Because like it's funny. You just wipe. Like it was hard to tell that the shocks were Bilsteins until I wiped them off. Like
They're
they
blue and
just
yellow.
looked brown. Like those are yellow. They're just like brown shocks under the car. So,
That good Alaska
but
mud.
yeah. But anyway, I got the head off, and I had some pictures of it, and people on the internet are insane and like enhance, and like I think there's a crack in there, and I was like, oh really? So I went back and looked at it. Between number 2 and 3, there's a crack right in the cast iron water jacket.
I mean, it's a pretty significant crack when you look at it, but maybe
It
that's
looked like
because I
carbon
zoomed
built up.
in a picture. Yeah.
When I pulled it off, it just looked like carbon built up there because it was just gross with the. But it.
Did you post
And
a
I
picture
thought
after you cleaned it then?
I did
Or
after
maybe
I cleaned it.
Or maybe you said it was a crack, so I knew going in that it was a crack, so I wasn't tricked.
I did after I cleaned it too, and I was
Oh,
like, "Oh,
okay.
it's definitely a crack." Everybody was definitely right because you could see it up through the water jacket holes, and that's just it's funny. People in the Volvo group are like, "Oh, they just do that, and it's not a big deal." And I'm like, "Is it?" Because this one was blowing air out of that and into the overflow. So maybe if the head was completely flat and it could seal against the gasket, yeah, it's probably not a big deal. But since the head is likely warped, yeah, it's not that good. So,
Well, if you get the head
um,
flattened, can you have that welded up? It's just steel head. It's nothing fancy.
well, it's cast iron. It's not steel.
Oh, okay.
So,
Cast iron though. You can get it cleaned up though. That's the word I meant. Sorry.
yeah. So that was the thing, trying to find a place to do the machine work on it. Because it's funny. I was like, it's funny when you, I don't know what I thought was going to happen. Posting on the internet, on the Volvo Facebook group for 142s, but
People
it's
you should use
pretty,
better gas in it.
it's pretty decent. No, it's pretty decent because some people are like, it's no big deal. They all do that. It's unlikely to find one that's not like that. And then other people are like, you should just get another one. It's not worth fixing. It's like literally 50-50. I'm like, I don't know. So I went to one machine shop that was local here that I knew used to exist. It's definitely not the same people, and definitely barely exists because I showed him the head and he was like, "No, I can't work on that." I was like, "Okay." So,
Is that the old Coburn?
no, New England Coburn's gone, definitely gone. The New England machine that was right in downtown Peabody.
Oh, okay.
It's not all the old guys that used to work in there. It's somebody else.
Well,
So,
all the Coburn stuff moved up to Salem on Boston Street.
I don't know if they're still doing machine shop work in there, but it doesn't matter. My dad found it probably through Googling. And I think word around here is they're pretty good. And I emailed and then talked to them on the phone today at this place called R&L Engines in Dover, New Hampshire. And they specialize in stuff from the 20s to today.
Oh, okay.
All they do is machine work and building engines.
So they specialize in the entire existence of automobiles.
Yeah. And they'll do stuff from like
pretty big
race
specialty.
engines. Yeah, they'll do stuff from race engines though to like they've got a lot of stuff about like flatheads.
Okay.
And other stuff
So
like
they have
they're
they're old school guys.
Yeah, but they'll do like if I want to bring in the Mitsubishi head, they would do that too.
Yep. No,
And they
that's
do,
that's
like,
awesome.
really-
It's great to have a shop like that you know no matter what you bring them, they'll at least be interested in trying to help you. I think that's the biggest
Yeah,
thing.
like they had some pictures of stuff. I went on their Facebook. One of them was like an old Studebaker engine. They're like, yeah, something a little different today. We're doing a Studebaker engine. So, yeah, I sent him pictures, and then he called me later in the day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's like, I can fix that. That's not a big deal." He's
It's
like,
like we've
we
done
grew up.
150 Volvos this week.
He's like, we grew up fixing stuff like that. I was like, all right, that sounds good, because I was like, it's basically like an old '60s British engine. It really is. So it's apparently this method. They charge by the inch, so luckily that crack is not very big, but it's a product called Lock and Stitch.
Okay.
And if you go on the Discord, I actually shared a video of it on YouTube. It's a really cool video by the company that invented it. And it's funny because the video is like 15 years old. It's like really well done. Like it must have cost them a ton of money to do it at the time. But you basically drill a bunch of holes along the crack and thread the holes, and they have these different size plugs or different length depending on the material thickness, and they screw them in and they break them off and then grind them flat, and it fills in the material and stops the crack.
So it's
Instead
kind
of
of like
welding it.
filling a screw hole in a wooden door with like small wooden dowels and then sanding them down to make the new
Yeah,
screw
pretty
hole.
much. Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
simple.
because you really can't weld cast iron. It just doesn't weld well. Just the
Okay.
way the material is.
See, I always thought you
sorta
could
porous.
weld cast iron easier than like an aluminum head or something. 'Cause obviously,
No,
you can weld
aluminum is-
aluminum, but
Aluminum is much
requires-
easier to weld
Hmm.
because you can TIG it.
which requires the skill and equipment to TIG, which is what I'm saying that a lot of places
Yeah.
wouldn't do an aluminum head because of that.
Cast iron would to weld, when you read about it, you would have to heat the head up to like 900 degrees and then weld it.
Which is not good for the rest of the head.
Yeah, you can't. It's really not a thing you can do. I guess this is the preferred method. So they'll do that. They'll put hardened valve seats in it, fix whatever else. Hopefully it doesn't cost me too much, but looking for cores to use, even on eBay, they're like $200 to $300. So it's like, well, sure, I could buy something like that, and then I don't even know what that condition is.
What you're buying, yep. You could buy that and then still have to go through it. So
And yeah, and then
might
I'm
as well
$300
spend
the whole.
$500 or $600 just to have it done right the first time. Which I imagine it wouldn't be any more than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm figuring. Which is pretty normal for a good head job.
Yeah, the one of my clips was a little bit more than that, but we're talking about a 16 valve, and the big cost was all the valves.
Yeah, I did like that they did have all the prices written down for things, like the starting prices and the per hour rate. So they're very, very clear. Like,
Yeah, that's very good.
it was like a 4-cylinder, 2 valves per cylinder is this amount of money. So that's good.
No surprises that way. That's a much better way to do it. Well, I'm glad you found somebody, because I was a little disconcerted that the local shop was like, no, and just kind of cast you aside.
Yeah, I mean, within 5 minutes of being there and realizing it wasn't the other guys that I remembered, I was like, yeah, no. And I let him look at it anyways. I was like, I wasn't going to do it there anyways.
Right. It's always frustrating with older car stuff because at the end of the day, mechanical things are mechanical things, and it shouldn't be a big deal for a shop to work on something like that. But a lot of them just don't want to do it.
Yeah, no. These guys are like an hour away, but that's fine. It's just up 95.
You can drop it off on your way to a weekend in New Hampshire.
Yeah. But they also seem interested in working on engines, and like this is what they do. So
yeah, having the actual passion for it is helpful too. And if they do Studebakers and they do flatheads and they do stuff from the 20s, then that's who I would trust to do it for sure.
Yeah.
So, excellent. Awesome. Well, I'm happy that you found a spot to take care of it. That's great. You gonna bring
Yeah.
everything to them, or just the top end?
I'll bring the bottom end eventually. I got to get through the head first.
Right. I just figured to knock it all down at once and bring it all there at the same time.
No, spread it out a little bit because it's. I'm sure the bottom end will be probably another $500.
I guess it depends on what it needs. Maybe you don't even need to bring it. Maybe you can just clean it at home.
No, it needs to be all rehoned. It's not. There's no hash marks left on the cylinder walls.
Just too tired.
Yeah, I mean it's just completely worn out, and it was probably leaking past the rings anyways too. It's kind of what it sounded like.
Well, good. It's moving along. I'm glad it's moving along. It's been, I don't know what's it been. At least a few months it's been there. So.
Sorry, the cat is being a absolute wild child over here.
I'm sure you can hear dogs barking in the background on my end. So we're just gonna call it an animal episode, I guess.
She found. Stephanie bought these wool dryer balls to use instead of dryer sheets, and they were on top of the dryer, and she's apparently found one and is playing with it like a cat toy on the floor.
I mean, you put a ball somewhere that's not hidden in a box, cat's gonna find it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, any other project car stuff, Andrew?
That's really just it. You're talking about overheating. That reminds me, I'm gonna have to have that radiator for that car record too, because it's not good. Like they never took it out of the car when they did the paint job. They just painted right over it.
Yep.
Which is wild to me.
I mean, that's super common. Most places, most people that pay for a paint job don't pay to take the whole car apart, so that's what they get.
But like, was the engine out? Because the engine bay is painted.
It doesn't matter. Every little part you have to take out is another extra cost to the paint job, so they don't do it.
The brake booster is painted over. The radiator is painted over. I guess you, as the owner, you didn't even take that stuff out, so they just sprayed right over it.
A typical cheap paint job. It's if you didn't take it off and you didn't mask it, we're not going to either. So everything's going to be red. And a lot of people do that if they're not going to keep that part forever. Like they're planning on changing the radiator. Maybe they should leave it in there. But it's also strange because the car was a different color. And when you take the radiator out, now the core support, that's where the radiator was, is probably going to be the original color where the radiator was sitting, right?
No, actually, now you're mentioning it now. Yeah, I was looking in there. It's not. It's really dirty, but it's not white. It's red. Yeah. Unless they just
they painted it red on purpose.
There's a lot of cans of Duplicolor in that car that were red.
Because maybe the brake booster was clearly painted on purpose.
Yeah, maybe they painted the radiator too. And I don't know. Because you got to use radiator paint on a radiator.
Sure.
Because it doesn't help the heat transfer.
Nope.
I mean, this thing clearly overheated and smoked itself.
Yep.
Like it was driven to the point where it just wouldn't run anymore.
The question is, though, was it because the radiator was painted red, or was it because there was a giant hole in the middle of the radiator? Because
that's also, yeah, I don't know. It's like weird trying to figure out how this thing died, and it just like, and then it's like the other thing, like when did the Makunis go on? Was that when it wasn't before it was running well? And they put the Makunis on? And
again, my guess is, after we Googled the owner's name, that the original owner or the longtime owner who probably put a lot of the work into the car with the Bilsteins and the Makunis and all that stuff was probably the dad. And then the person who we found later, whose name was on there, is the son. I'm sure because the father probably passed away, the son took the car over. The son is not a mechanic and just drove it like a car and didn't know how to do old car things, and possibly just wasn't paying attention and just drove it until it seized, basically, is my guess.
Yeah, I don't know. And then we were talking. It's got cables for the Mikunis, so I don't know how you sync the two Mikunis on cables to make sure they're both opening exactly the same.
Well, we
Like
found
the
a
preferred,
mechanical linkage, right?
yeah, the preferred method to set them up, the way everybody sets them up, is with linkage, because then you know both butterfly valves are opening the same amount.
Yeah, and
Because you could have,
there's a shaft. It's almost like a through shaft that you can connect two of them together, so they do open the same amount.
yeah,
So that's what
intermediary
you're
shaft.
obviously going to do and get rid of the cable setup.
Yeah, because that burn valve or broken valve, I think it's a burn valve, like that could be from a lean condition. So what?
It's more
You know,
than
it's like
likely
what
from a
happened.
lean condition.
So it's like, did the car get lean because it got too hot and then burned a valve, which is probably what happened? Or was there also like an issue with the carbs being out of sync and you end up with a lean cylinder? Who knows? It's smoked is what the problem is.
Did the lean condition cause an overheating condition?
Yeah, it could. If you're running lean, it'll make the engine run hot.
Well, the cool thing is that in 2024, even with a carbureted car, you can run an O2 sensor and have an air fuel gauge in the car, so you can know how the car is running. So that's a positive thing nowadays.
I will probably add one just for tuning.
It's
carbs.
it's not difficult, and it's good to have it not only for tuning but for the health of the motor. So if you ever do wind up with an issue where the car is running lean, you'll know instead of just like, oh, the car broke, guess it was lean. So
Yeah.
there's certainly a lot of listen, I know I take a lot of heat in the Discord group and just in general life with our friends about being a carburetor person, but I understand that fuel injection is obviously better than carburetors, but at least at this day and age, there's enough stuff you can add to a carbureted car to help you with the tuning
Like fuel
process.
injection.
Yeah, exactly. True. But what I mean is you can keep that traditional carburetor setup so you have the old car setup. Because again, sometimes you just need to let old cars be old. But you can let the old car be old and adding something like an O2 sensor and a gauge to monitor the performance of the car is not taking away from that old car character of the car by adding modern things to it. It's just maintaining it and making sure it stays running for a long time. Because the longer things go, the less parts are out there. You might as well not break it.
Yeah. It's that's the other thing too. The header manifold setup is connected, and come to find out, it's set up like that to preheat intake air. So that's the other way. You'll get in a situation like that. So if it's running lean, the exhaust is gonna be hotter. It's gonna make intake air hotter and make it run more lean, and just kind of runs away from you.
Right.
So I actually ordered off eBay an earlier aluminum intake manifold that's a dual setup that can be used instead, and then I can get a separate header for it.
So it's not a cross
they're
flow.
not
It's obviously same side.
Yeah, it's the same size, but this way the intake and exhaust manifold are not cast as one piece. They're not connected like via air, but they are connected via metal, and the metal transfers the heat into the intake portion for cold weather.
It's probably
which is fine.
early
I guess if
attempt
you're in
emissions.
Alaska.
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah, it was an early
stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also an early attempt emission stuff. But
Well, that's
you
cool.
can
So
switch.
that will actually look cooler too with an aluminum intake manifold, and you can probably put a header on it now. Then,
Yes, I will
which
put
will
a header on it.
give it a cool sound and also look the
And
part.
Yep, and I can swap over those adapters that are on there. Those are fine because they just fit the SU footprint. So
Excellent. Well, that's a cool upgrade. I did not know you bought that.
yeah, that was cheap. It was only like $45. So
Nice. That's pretty awesome.
yeah,
Is there a header available fairly inexpensively still too?
yeah, headers are like $230.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No, it's weird because when you look it up there's like a 4-1 header that's like listed for the 140. And then there's other headers for the B20 that are listed. It's a 4-2-1 that's designed like the Volvo R Sport header, which I guess is a good one. And I'm like, why can't I just use that? Because there's definitely enough space in there. But maybe because it's not a direct bolt up to the exhaust and you have to do some cutting and welding. I'm like, that's fine. I can cut and weld exhaust. I've done that before.
Sure. And you could even just bring it to a exhaust shop and have them be like, hey, put something off this header flange and make the rest of it with your tubing bender. Like, go to town.
I can just make that.
Or you can do it at home too. Sure.
Yeah. Because the exhaust on it, it's definitely aftermarket or somebody made it. And it doesn't have any mufflers. It's all resonators. So I'm kind of curious to know how loud it is.
Especially when you put a header on it. You probably want to put a muffler on it somewhere.
I may have to replace the whole exhaust system with, like, they sell a sport exhaust system. And then
I can tell you that the exhaust on the Corolla wagon is that same setup. It's got two big resonators on it. One of them is like 3 feet long, one of them's like 2 feet long, and it is not enough. It needs a muffler. So
yeah, these look like cherry bombs that the paint's worn off. So
yeah, that's basically what's on the Corolla as well. So, and once that car is fixed and running, it will also have an exhaust added to it with a muffler, and get rid of those.
I mean, maybe I'll put a purple horn on it or something.
Yeah, why not? A muffler is better than no muffler at this point. Maybe that's just old man Brad talking, but you need some kind of sound muffling, especially in a car that's not super fast. Like, it's okay to have like a sport tuned sound on a car that's not super fast, but if your car is like really, really loud and also slow, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, there's something about the sound has to match the speed.
Yes.
Like, it can't, if it's too loud and too slow, then it's like real bad.
Right. Just think of every Honda that we went to high school with. You know, they sound like doing 110 miles an hour, and you look around and they're like doing the speed limit. So, yep, can't do that. You need to have a nice sport tuned exhaust. That cool, like 60s, 70s rally car sound is what you need. So, something similar to like my 944. It has that, it's just louder enough than stock to be entertaining, but not so loud that it's annoying.
Yeah. I'll work on it.
Yeah. I think most of your
the
cars
engine to run
first. Yeah. I mean, of course. We clean things before you make them run. We don't modify more things before we make them run.
Yeah. I mean, if it sounds like the G20, that'd be good.
I think a little quieter than the G20, only because of its age.
Yeah.
Personal preference. The G20 sounds cool because it's a more freer revving motor, but I think that that motor is going to be a little bit more lazy, so it probably wouldn't sound as good that loud because it would be always very slow revving in comparison to the G20 anyway. So, personal preferences. So, you complained about a car show last week, Andrew. It's my turn.
All right, what do you got?
You went to a car show that you thought was too much like a Cars and Coffee to have been charged $50 and spend all day.
Yep.
I attempted to go to a Cars and Coffee that I don't normally go to. I've been to it before, but it's not one that I go to every time they have it because it's a little hoity-toity for me. It's at Club Auto here in Phoenix, which is one of those. Actually, excuse me, it's not in Phoenix; it's in Scottsdale, which is one of those car club / rental garage spots with, like, you pay $400 a month to park one car in there, and then you pay some exorbitant member fee to belong to their exclusive club. And it's all the rich mucky mucks who are questionably even real car people that all hang out there. But they do a Cars and Coffee there, I'd say probably once a month during the cooler seasons. And I've been maybe twice before. The name is also dumb. They call it Bagels and Bullshit instead of Cars and Coffee. Like, enough with the and something car shows, especially when they're dumb like that one.
I also hate ampersands as an aside. I just don't like them.
Unless Road and Track. Road and Track gets away with it.
Yeah.
Only because they've been doing it since 1955.
Yes. There are certain things that you can use it for, but it takes longer to type and it's dumb to use.
It takes longer to type, and if you're trying to write it out freehand, you can never remember how it goes without looking at it. So anyway, Bagels and Bullshit is their event. And a friend of mine was going and bringing a car and having his car featured in it. So I was like, all right, I'll come down and hang out for the day. So I drive down there. This is when I drove down the Cressida when I had its overheating issue. And I'm getting like near to the place. And I'm not like super early, but I'm also not late. The event hasn't even officially started yet. And I start noticing cars parked like 3 blocks away. I'm like, this event is never this big. This doesn't make any sense at all. It's just a Cars and Coffee. It's literally like 6:55 in the morning. What is happening? So I'm driving through. It's like an industrial area. And I get to the main street this building is on, and the street is closed. They have closed off the entire street. The entire street, not just in front of their building, not just their parking lot, the entire street, and made it members-only parking. It is maybe half full. Now, I don't care if your parking lot is members only. That's fine. Obviously, inside your garage is members only. That's fine. You can't take the public road, which is a public street, and claim it as parking for your unofficial, for your not like unofficial, but not a car show like your Cars and Coffee. Like, that's not cool, especially when the street's not even full. And it's not like it's just the stretch of road in front of the shop, which would also annoy me, but I'd be less mad about. It's the entire street. So, the block is between a quarter and a half mile long, probably. Both sides. You don't have that many member cars that aren't already parked inside or in your parking lot. It's not full. There's plenty of parking there. Why should I park 3 blocks away to attend your event if you're going to have the entire street just blocked off for no apparent reason? It just seemed super extra, and it made me super upset. And I left. I was like, nope, I'm not doing this. So it's fine. Because again, I was there at a reasonable time to have found a parking spot at this event that wasn't 3 blocks away. And you're parking 3 blocks away, you're not even at the event. So you go down there in an older car. You don't want to just parallel street park in a main drag around the corner where there's nothing happening. Like, it's not even part of the event anymore. You're just downtown Scottsdale. Like, not even downtown. You're industrial area Scottsdale. Like, what? This isn't where I'm going to leave my car. Like,
yeah, you're talking real city blocks, not like here.
Yeah, it's like a city block. Like, it's a busy city. Like, there's trucks and cars and homeless people and police activity, and like, Scottsdale is not a bad neighborhood, but at the same time, like, it's not. I mean, people aren't going down there with their daily family stand. They're going down there to go to a Cars and Coffee event. There's still a ton of parking spots. Why haven't you opened the street up? Be like, hey, members, if you want to get here at 6:00 in the morning, maybe we'll have some extra parking for you. But again, closing the entire street down for your exclusive members when it's a public road is complete, just the bullshit part, not the bagels and bullshit. So it just made me mad. And I said, you know what? I guess I'm done with these guys. I don't care anymore. So I left. And I went to 4 till 4, which is always a better event anyway. They do have a members only section for their car club members. But the reason they have that is because they lost an entire parking lot because the other folks who have businesses in the plaza were complaining that there were too many cars there. So they said, in order to allow 4 till 4 to use it, they had to compromise. And the compromise was, they're like a car club, people who are in their car club can park in that parking lot during the event and have to leave by 10. That's a fine understanding of that. They don't take the entire city block and close it off to their members only. So, again, I'm saying this because it's a Cars and Coffee. If it was like an organized once a year car show and there is some sort of exclusivity or some reason to have the street blocked for your car show, we're talking a totally different thing. It's just when you're doing a casual morning Cars and Coffee, you shouldn't be doing any of this stuff. You're taking away from what the entire purpose of a Cars and Coffee is. It's to be a casual gathering. It's a first come, first serve kind of basis. Like, just come hang out, look at some cars, talk to some friends, and leave. Don't make it any more than it is, because you make it more than it is, you're going to turn people off and turn people away, and then there's no reason to go. So I guess I'm just mad about the whole gatekeeping of the whole thing, because, again, this is the hobby that we love being stolen and controlled by people who are in it for the wrong reasons. So, am I angry about it? I'm angry about it. Does it bother me that much? I guess it doesn't really, because I don't go to that event very often anyway, but it's just another event that I'm not going to go to anymore. So that's 2 Cars and Coffee, quote unquote, here now, or 3 that have been ruined in the past couple of years by a similar kind of process. There's another one now that you have to apply to go to, and if you're a spectator, you have to pay to park as a spectator. Guess what? I'm not going to that one either. I'm not paying to park to go to spectator to Cars and Coffee.
No, they get too big is the problem. And
then let it fizzle out and do something else. Advertise it less. Like, I don't know what to say, but
it just
it's
tells
not
you
Cars
that
and Coffee anymore.
People are starved for this stuff.
They starve for attention is the problem. Most of them are just full of new Porsches and new Lamborghinis, and just tired of it. Tired of it, Andrew. Give me old cars and nothing else. So that's my gatekeeping. Keep your Lamborghinis and new Challengers out of it. So anyway, that's just my my rant for the day. Is that I'm frustrated by another event being too difficult to attend, so I'm not going to attend anymore. So I showed them.
Yeah,
I'm sure that my one opinion matters so much that they'll never do it again.
You can have your own Cars and Coffee in your backyard.
I do every morning. But no, seriously, that's why I started this planning for this AZ Rising Sun Rally, which has quickly become more than what I wanted it to be. So I'm going to, once this is behind me and over, I'll just be doing some casual communicating amongst a few friends, bring a couple of friends. We're going to go for a drive, and we're going to stop here for coffee. And
that sounds like a forenoon cup.
That's what we're going to do. Yeah, basically. I've already been chatting with some friends about it because
that's our on-off-topic signature event that unfortunately didn't have enough time to. Well, we did one earlier this year. We just got to get back to doing it, and we're gonna try to do some in the spring.
Well, I'll hopefully have some out here this year. Just some casual gatherings. Hey, just send a message out to like 7 or 8 people. Hey, if anybody else wants to come, more than welcome. But we're going to stop at, Black Rock Coffee on Greenway at 7 a.m. on Saturday. See you there. If nobody shows up,
and if you're in the Discord, you're invited.
Yeah. It's funny. There's not a lot of Discord members who are in Arizona, so it's all it's mostly East Coast. We need some more Arizona people. So anyway. Yep, so that's where we're at. Frustrated by that. But as much as the Arizona Rising Sun Rally has taken a mind of its own and grown beyond what I was envisioning, I am still excited for it. That is happening not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. So if you are an Arizona-based listener, we are technically sold out. But if you have a pre-05 car, I can probably still sneak you in if you want to join. It will be fun. I did a pre-run of the route last week, with Naomi in her Maverick. So we had something that was modern with a very accurate odometer for tracking the miles and making sure that all of our turning directions are fairly correct. I don't have a rally computer, so they're not going to be like super exact. Also, I've failed miserably at every TST I've ever done. So if I created the miles with a rally computer, it probably wouldn't work anyway. So, big thanks to her actually, because she uses this app for her bicycle routes that she was able to use to help plan the route out for the actual driving portion of the event. And it does mileages to the hundredths on that app. So obviously I don't need
So
mileages.
fancy.
Yeah, we don't need mileage to the hundredths for this event because it's not any kind of time, speed, distance event. It's literally just I should be billing it as like a scenic cruise, I guess. But it's going to be a good time. It's 225 miles in one day with a stop for lunch that we're going to be catering is not the right word, but we'll have like finger sandwiches and chips and sodas for everybody at lunch. And then at the end of the day, it's ending at a country club that has a restaurant, and everybody's registration includes one dinner there as well. And then they can pay extra for their navigator if they have a navigator. And should be a good little wrap-up party in the end. So the countdown has begun. It's less than 2 weeks away. So I'm going to run that route again this weekend. Now that I made some changes to it. Because wouldn't you know it, our lunch stop is in Prescott. And one thing that we didn't take into account, because we didn't know that it was happening, was that Prescott is doing a downtown 5K that day. So I had to make some route adjustments to avoid downtown Prescott, which, if you're familiar with Prescott, downtown is most of Prescott. So it's hard to get around it without going into it. Or at least it's hard to get around the 5K route with the streets they have closed off. So I think we have it figured out. We'll find out the day of the event because who knows what they're going to choose to close off for roads. But I think it'll be okay. So we shall see. But yeah, it should be a good time. A couple of photographers have committed to covering the event. And I'm excited that our friend Bradley is going to be in town that day. And him and his wife are going to participate in it as well. And they're going to use my Eclipse. So that brings me to another point of the show I wanted to talk about, Andrew. And I'm going to ask your opinion right now.
Okay.
The Eclipse needs tires.
Yeah.
The tires that are on it are the ones that I bought for the car when I bought the car, which, believe it or not, Andrew, was 5 years ago. And probably close to 40,000 miles ago. So they're worn. They were Dunlop Durezas. So they were kind of not a track tire, but a high-performance summer tire. I liked them a lot. They don't make them anymore. So I was going... I don't want to put a cheap tire on the car because, the car...
S-Drives.
S-Drives
The
don't exist.
Well, they're Advan
Fleva?
Jovas now or whatever.
The Fleva?
The Flevas.
Yeah, that's what you
That'll
have
do
on
it.
the 20, correct?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I had them, and I did some track days on them, and I killed them. But I
They're
would
good-
put them
they're
on
a good
again.
street tire, yeah.
They're 300 treadwear. It's just the modern version of the S-Drive.
So the issue with that is I generally buy my tires out here at Discount or Tire Rack, which is the same company. They don't list them on their website.
They don't have Yokohamas all of a sudden?
They have Yokohamas, but they don't list the Fleva. They list a ton of other tires, but they don't
That's where
list
I've gotten them.
Interesting. They don't list them in that size. So the size is 205.
They don't make them in that size.
They do, because I can buy them at Walmart or Amazon, but I can't buy them at Discount. So I was
Can't
going
special order them? That's weird.
I got to find out if I can, but if they don't list them on the website, usually you can't, right? So I'm actually just
I don't
gonna
know.
go to a Discount tomorrow and ask them. But what Discount and Tire Rack do have right now on closeout are Bridgestone Potenza RE71s for $100 a tire in the correct size.
Okay, then do that. That's $400 for tires.
Should I try that? It's the same money as the Flevas, but these are a 200 treadwear, so they won't last as long.
They'll last you long enough. You don't drive the car that much.
I don't.
You do, but you don't.
Yeah, and the tires that the Dunlops that were on there are 200 treadwear anyway, and they definitely lasted more than 20,000 miles for sure. So probably just go with the closeout Potenza RE71 RSs.
Yeah. Try them.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So, all right. Well, then maybe I'll do that. So it's interesting though because they have the closeout ones for $97.39, or the non-closeout ones are $233. So I guess
they probably changed the tread compound.
No, they have more than their 2-year-old production date on them. So, but I don't think it's a big deal if they're in a warehouse. They're not sitting out in the sun, right?
Fine, it's fine.
But it's also Bradley going to be driving the car, and he is very upset about tire date codes. So I need to make sure he's happy there. So, but I think he'll be fine on 2-year-old tires. So, yeah, I think 2-year-old tires are fine anyway. And like I said, they're in Tire Rack's warehouse. I'm not really concerned about them being too worn out, right?
They're fine.
Yeah. Okay. So you suggest I should go with the Bridgestones then for $100 a tire?
Yes.
Okay. Then that is what I'll do. I'll order them tomorrow because I have a discount tire credit card. So not only will they be $400, they'll also be 0 interest. So perfect. Excellent. Anything else you want to talk about today, Andrew? Couple of quick NASCAR chat.
Yeah. See, we didn't talk about Talladega.
We did not. The big one.
Yeah, the biggest big one ever. Was it 28 cars or something?
28 car crash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was I mean, lately the super speedways they'll have a really clean race for most of the race. And then it's like the third stage is where they have the big one, it seems.
Yeah, because everybody's trying a little harder at that point. The crazy thing is that leading up to that big wreck, there were multiple laps of 4 and 5 wide. Like,
yeah,
just lap after lap after lap. 5, 6, 7, 8 rows deep of 4 wide and occasionally 5 wide. And it was absolutely insane to watch them lap like that, lap after lap. And, I think the position changes. You couldn't even keep up with who was in what position because there was so much shuffling going on in the back. But they made it through all of those laps cleanly, and it was amazing to watch. So much door handle to door handle racing, and it was literally anybody's race the whole time. Anybody could have pulled out and won that race at any point in time until the big wreck.
Yeah, took out a lot of playoff cars too.
Huge playoff implications. Huge. And then a non-playoff driver won the race. So
yeah, Chastain won. So
yeah.
And Byron finished second though. So.
Wait, Chastain won or didn't Chastain won the week before?
Was it the week before?
Talladega was not Gilliland. Shoot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was the week before.
Yeah.
No, it was Gilliland, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Gilliland.
It was some back marker. Just came out of nowhere. That's why we can't remember his name.
Shoot, I'm having a hard time. He's not really a back marker. He's been in the Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Okay.
So yeah, he's not really a back marker. He's been in the running top 10 a lot this year, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He won the race. For JTG maybe.
I don't know. I meant to rewatch the recap again because it's been 2 weeks since we saw the race,
yeah.
But
JTG is his team, the number 47. So the Kroger sponsored car, the supermarket monopoly car.
Yeah. So that wasn't an elimination race.
It was not.
We get to the
thankfully.
Roval last week was an elimination race. That was an interesting. I mean, let's start with the Xfinity race on Saturday first. So
You're gonna have to describe this one because I haven't even seen the highlight reels.
I would watch
heard
the
that it
highlight
was a
reel.
great race.
It's a great race. You had SVG out there killing it. AG Allmendinger out there killing it.
As they both did on Sunday too.
Yeah, and then, gosh, what was his name? I can't remember the guy's name. That won the race. This is so bad. I'm so bad with names because it got down
Well, we had
to.
computers sitting in front of us, so we could have looked this up ahead of time.
Well, I tried to remember it because I did watch it, and this is why it's casual motorsports enjoyers because we don't memorize everything. But the Xfinity Roval winner,
Sam Mayer.
Okay. He came up. It was interesting because the race, there's a ton of lead changes, a ton of battling. They modified the Roval layout and changed a couple of corners and added this really tight hairpin at turn 7. And it gave people a lot of places to make passes. And it was funny because you should watch the recap of the Xfinity race because it explains some of the stuff they were talking about during the Cup race. Because SVG is such a good road course racer, he did a couple pass moves on Saturday, and everybody was watching him because they know to watch him. They're like, "Oh, that's where you make the passes."
Is this the
So
dive
everybody
bomb
copied.
to the left in turn 7?
Yes, he did it first, and then everybody copied it because it worked, and it worked a lot.
It did. It was like us playing Forza. Like it was either you slow in, fast out, or fast in, slow out, and that was just how the pass worked. Because if you went fast in, you were able to sneak underneath the car who was going slow in, and then you could block him on the way out, and he couldn't go
Or
fast
push him out.
Yeah, he basically had to go slow in, slow out, and you went fast in, slow out, and you got to pass him. Pretty much at the apex. You basically stuffed your car in there and hoped you didn't knock him out of the way, like
So
Reddick did to
yeah. So
Hamlin.
let me talk about the end of the Xfinity race, which was wild. It seemed like Parker Klingerman was gonna take it. He was literally like 25 feet from the start finish line, and another car had buried itself into one of the tire barriers, and they literally. So you got to take the white for it to be an official race before the yellow comes out. He had literally 25 feet. He was about to cross and take the white. They're like, you can hear this. They play the spotter voice. They're like, take the white, take the white, take the white. And they flipped on the yellow lights. They had to go back to the booth, the NASCAR booth. They had to figure it out. And they're like, all right, he didn't take the white. So they'd go to overtime, and he lost the race. Because he had older tires, he got pushed to the back. He ended up finishing 3rd or 4th. It was a huge bummer. It would have been his first win. Because he also does commentary for Cup Series.
Yeah,
on Sundays.
He's interesting person that he's doing both those things.
Yeah.
So that is
the
disadvantage of the
overtime rule
system. Yeah, but I mean that's
and
sport, right? Like the overtime rule exists in football, and first team to score wins. Like that's a huge thing. Like it's definitely not unique to NASCAR that the overtime is super effective.
But it makes sense. There was pictures I saw of SVG was consoling him. After, I will say, that guy, SVG is a true gentleman and actually does really good sportsmanship in the sport.
Yep.
Which seemingly sometimes people don't.
He's been an amazing addition to NASCAR in general. Coming from the land of criminals, and being one of the nicest guys in the sport. It's pretty cool.
So Cup race
I say that tongue
on
in
Sunday.
cheek. Sorry, Australian fans.
Yeah. Really good race. There's a lot of lead changes. SVG was on the pole, his first pole in a Cup car. But I don't know. Larson's just so fast.
Larson is like the 1960s Yankees of NASCAR right now.
He's the Jeff Gordon. He's the 2020s 1990s Jeff Gordon, which makes sense.
I guess
he's literally
more
mentored by Jeff
direct
Gordon.
reference. Yeah.
It's literally that.
And he's almost as whiny.
Jeff Gordon could win on any track in NASCAR. He'd win on road courses, he'd win at super speedways, he'd win everywhere. And he seemingly has made Kyle Larson in his image.
Yeah, there's no question. Despite some of Kyle Larson's off-track issues, he is an amazing race car driver. There's nothing you can say about it. I mean, you don't have to like the guy, but you can't take that away from him that he's really good. So
And they have one of the best teams and one of the best cars every week.
that also helps that he drives for Hendrick. Like he probably wouldn't be as successful if he drove for Legacy.
Yeah, the
Motor
equipment,
Club, you know.
Yeah. And then, unless like a couple weeks ago where there was like 2 weeks in a row, he just like wrecked. But,
But that's
most
NASCAR.
of the time.
I mean, you never know what's going to
Yeah.
happen. So he always either has a very good day or a very bad day. It's not very often that you see Kyle Larson have like an average middle of the pack day. Either something went terribly wrong or he wins the race. That's pretty much like the Larson way. I shouldn't say wins the race. Either something went terribly wrong or he's in the top 5. So
I mean, I shouldn't say SVG dominated really the first stage. He got out
100%.
first, but
Yep.
after that,
Kyle Larson dominated halfway through the second stage and then the rest of the race.
to the point where they weren't even showing him running.
Yeah,
Like it was just
he had 2 seconds on second place most of the time.
and it was like it's kind of getting like I really don't want to watch another race where he just dominates everybody.
Yep.
I think they were saying he's led like 1,000 laps this season or something.
He has more laps than anybody else by like a huge margin.
Yeah.
It got to the point where like I'm not usually rooting for a wreck of any kind, but I was like, man, we just need a yellow just to stack the field back up, just so somebody has a chance.
Yeah.
To and then even when it did happen, they did get that yellow later in the race for the tire off of I forget whose car now.
Dylan.
Austin Dillon's car. Yeah, they had that.
Yeah.
They had that yellow for that, and even then, he just drove away. So the restart zone was interesting because it was mid-turn coming off the out on the straightaway after that curbing that they changed to stop cars from jumping 30 feet in the air. So
that was interesting.
Even with that change, there were some pretty heavy jumps.
So that was the thing, right? They put these turtles in the middle. The idea was to keep cars from cutting to discourage it, but I don't know why they had to change it to shorter ones because the cars were basically jumping. But even still, the other ones still got cars air, like that air that Bowman got.
Yeah,
was pretty ridiculous.
Yep.
But like
the biggest air was the back tires in Reddick's car all day when he slid into the side of Hamlin and
into the side of his car owner's car.
Yeah. But Reddick had the drive of the day. Like he broke his car on that.
So yeah, that's the other thing. Reddick is an amazing road course driver. He had a drive like that in Chicago. He nearly caught Bowman.
Yep.
And made that one mistake. So
but
that's the other thing.
But he broke his car when he hit Hamlin.
Yeah.
And went in. They changed the tow link. He kept going into the pits. He never went a lap down. He was back of the pack. And he charged through the field. Like to the point where it was cool because he was on the bubble for the playoff. And it was like, man, you need to pass 8 cars. Pass 8 cars. That's all you got to do. And he did it without even thinking about it. And then obviously he needed a little bit less because Is it Bowman actually who was trying to catch?
I think so.
No,
Logano.
Oh, Logano, right? Sorry, Logano.
Yep.
So Logano got passed by a couple other cars, so he actually Reddick needed less cars. But then Bowman was disqualified after the race, so it technically didn't matter.
He bounced Logano.
Yep,
Logano was out.
correct.
And then post-race inspection, there was something. Bowman's car was underweight.
Right.
And
What I'm saying was that during the race, it was super exciting because it was like, is Reddick going to be able to bump Logano? And the whole storyline, the last, the last stage was that. And he did. He bumped Logano. But then Bowman was disqualified after the race. So that whole storyline didn't matter because no matter what, both Logano and Reddick were going to get into the playoff, next round of the playoffs.
Yeah. But what's cool, though, these cars do race really well on road courses. And I don't want to hear it from people that don't like it because they put on a good race. And there's like at least 10 guys that are really good on road courses with these cars. So it's not, it's you, not the car.
Yeah, it's a driver issue,
You know, like
a car issue for sure. Like you get SVG out there dominating. You have Reddick out there dominating. You have Bowman out there driving really good.
Even Bubba ran a lot
really
better.
Good. Bubba's running really good on road courses. Like once you learn how to drive this car, it's gonna be very different than the old car, obviously, and they're just all used to the old car.
You have Jimmy Johnson who can't.
Well, Jimmy Johnson has no miles in this car, and then he goes out one race at a time trying to drive the car probably like he used to drive his old car, and he gets nowhere because he doesn't have the seat time.
Poor Legacy Motor Club.
I know. They get Jimmy Johnson out there like a champion. Like this guy could do no wrong for years, and he can't get a top 25. Sad.
Yeah. Both cars wrecked each other this past weekend.
Also that, yeah. Well, they had a little help. That wasn't just them driving into each other. There was a little bit of help there, but yeah, no, it sucks. And Legacy Motor Club should be better than they are. I mean, it's Richard Petty, man. Come on, it's basically Petty Enterprises.
Yeah,
get your act together.
Volvo's cool though. It'd be really cool if they did an IMSA race there.
I don't know why they don't.
They should do one.
I mean, we talk about this all the time. Why doesn't IMSA do a lot of piggybacking with NASCAR on road course weekends?
This would be the good weekend, like to do it. Would be Petit Le Mans was this weekend, but a Roval NASCAR IMSA weekend would make sense at Charlotte because a lot of the teams are based. Well, yeah, a lot of the IMSA teams are also based out of Charlotte.
Sure.
And so are the NASCAR teams, so it would be like kind of easy-ish to like get people and equipment around, probably.
Yeah, I mean, sure, both races were the same weekend, but they could schedule it differently next year, make it work.
Yeah, you wouldn't have like, you could do like maybe a 10-hour race on Saturday or something, or sprint, or do some IMSA sprint races or something.
2-3 hour sprints. Yeah, like don't even need a 10-hour race. I mean, it seems weird to me that there's not a lot of
6 hours of the Roval.
Yeah, but I know there's not a lot of sharing of weekends, especially on road courses. Like you could have an IndyCar event, or you could have an IMSA event, or you could have even a Trans Am event, or something else that would kind of bring more motorsports to that same weekend when everything's already there anyway. I don't know if it's just bad blood between all the series or what, but it just seems like it would make sense.
IMSA would be rad, and then do an exhibition race and throw a bunch of the NASCAR drivers into Miata Cup cars.
Sure, or even the Toyota does the celebrity race in Long Beach. Do the Toyota celebrity race with all the NASCAR drivers and the celebrities. Like that would be cool.
I guess that would get weird with like factory drivers, right? Because you got Ford.
Well, then you just have Toyota drivers.
The Toyota drivers would be fine. So maybe you could do Mazda maybe that'd be okay because it'd be like more neutral.
I don't know. I know that there are a lot of the drivers in their contracts. They're not allowed to drive any other brand on television.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I didn't think about that, but
That would be cool though.
I'm sure they come up with some kind of single race deal that wouldn't be contract issues. Just like, hey, this is what's happening. It is what it is. Deal with it. So it'd be good for everybody. So let's just do it.
Yeah.
But what do I know? Apparently nothing. That's why we have a podcast where nobody listens and we just talk to each other because we don't know anything.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Not true. Sorry to all of our listeners. We know you're out there. We're just
All 20 of us.
there's more than 20 of us, you know.
There's dozens of us.
Literally dozens. Anyway, no, it's getting very exciting. The Roval race was great. I know there's a lot of traditional NASCAR fans that complain because Charlotte usually produces really good racing on the oval as well, but it also produces really good racing on the Roval as well. So deal with it and just be happy you get one of each. So I hope they keep it on the schedule for the remaining future. I think next week is Vegas. Maybe this weekend.
It's Vegas.
Vegas. So that should be a good race. Vegas is usually a decent race as well. So it's not elimination.
I mean, we're coming
round.
up. Is there 4 races left?
I think there's 4 or 5.
It's gotta be. I think it's only like 4 because I feel like Phoenix is like the middle of the month or early in the month. So it's gonna be 3 or 4.
Possibly. So there's currently 8 drivers in the playoffs. Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Joey Logano.
Yeah, they get down to a final 4 for the
Yep.
final race. So
who is your money
I
on?
think you'll have.
If not Larson.
So since we by principle don't like Larson, I want Reddick to win because he was the regular season champion. It'd be cool if he wins the playoffs.
I agree. I would love to see Reddick win for a couple of different reasons as well. I'm a big 2311 fan.
That too.
But also, it would be a huge FU to NASCAR for 2311 to win the championship on this year of contract disputes with the lawsuit.
And
I'd love
supposedly, NASCAR said they are preparing a season with only 32 teams.
So they're preparing to not
in
have
their court filing
2311 run
documents
next year.
Yeah, or Front Row Motorsports.
Well, that would be a bummer for sure, because I'm a huge fan of both Reddick and Bubba. So that would be a bummer, but
that would be wild for them to not do that. So.
Yeah, especially if the guy wins the championship this year. You can't, like, how do you? Oof, politics, man, ruins everything.
And it's Michael Jordan's team.
Yeah. Who, that article, I don't know who wrote it, but it was one of the most tone deaf things I've ever read in my life that you shared, where the guy was
some guy for Auto Week. I don't even know who he was.
Auto Week writer was like, "Oh, the 2311 team's got to find out how much money and lawyers NASCAR has." It's like, dude, Michael Jordan has more money than NASCAR, so stop. And then combine that
richest
with
athlete in the world.
Yeah, and then combine that with Denny's money too. They're fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would love to see Reddick win for those reasons. And also I just like the guy. He's cool. He's a good dude on top of it. Like, I wouldn't be upset if Christopher Bell won. I wouldn't be upset if Hamlin won. But those are the main drivers I'd like to see, I think, do well in the final few races here. So I'm with you on Team Reddick.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish it wasn't a monster car all the time.
Oh, that'll be like that. I mean, that really sticks it to all the diecast collectors because they won't release a monster diecast.
Right.
So weird. What a weird thing.
Well, I mean, they're treating it like an old tobacco sponsorship, right? Basically.
I don't know why. I don't know the reason why. Lionel usually says licensing issues.
So my guess
when-
is
when
because
a-
it's an adult beverage, and the product is
Is it?
ultimately still. No, it's not an adult beverage, but it's not. They don't want to market it towards children. I think is the issue. I think that Monster or Pepsi, whoever owns Monster, probably sees the writing on the wall for future lawsuits and doesn't want to have the history of marketing it towards children, and they see diecast cars as toys. I think is probably the biggest issue.
Even though it's on TV every weekend.
But it's not directly marketed towards children there. So it's the same reason they can be a Busch Light car, but do they do beer sponsors on the diecasts?
Oh yeah.
That it must be a Pepsi.
I'm pretty sure. I don't have a.
The I have a diecast Chastain car, but it's the Be a Moose car.
I have several Chastain cars, and none of them are Busch Light.
Yeah.
Because it was Kevin Harvick before, and I never
Right.
bought a Kevin Harvick car. So
Sure. But no, it should be interesting. And what they'll probably do if he is the champion, they will release the car, but it'll just be black. And
it's so weird.
You'll have aftermarket companies selling decals to add to it, I'm sure. So anyway, I do hope that Tyler Reddick wins for multiple reasons. Not only because of the issue going on, but because, like I said, he's a likable guy, and he's a young guy. He's good for the sport. Like to see him win.
Oh, you know what they'd probably do? They'd probably do a Tyler Reddick Jumpman car instead.
Well, they could,
for that reason.
And my guess
because
is
they don't want to miss out.
They'll probably run that for the final. If he's in the final four, they'll probably run that car for that Phoenix race too.
So. Which are honestly cooler looking cars.
I think they're great looking.
Flat
cars.
black and green monster stuff sucks. It's the dumbest
the monster
livery ever.
is terrible. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, I don't miss it not having it as a diecast, but yeah, the Jumpman stuff. Those cars are usually really really good looking.
Yep.
So,
nope, I'm a big fan of all the Jumpman cars. So I am bummed I don't have Phoenix tickets, but
hard to get.
I could have got them earlier in the year, and I just
I
didn't know what was going on. You had talked about coming out, so I was going to get like a bunch of tickets. Then you couldn't make it, and then I was just like, I just didn't do it. So I mean, I went to the spring race, so it's not the same.
Maybe you end up with some. Maybe somebody will. Stuff happens.
Maybe some fall off a truck.
Hey, I got some.
Yeah, tickets fall off a truck, and I wind up there anyway. Who knows? So who knows? We'll see what happens. But as of right now, I'm not going to the race. I was thinking of going to the Nitro Rallycross. That's in Phoenix, but they just canceled the rest of the season. So,
weird.
Yeah. They didn't give any reason why yet either, just that it's canceled. So that made my decision that much easier to not go to Nitro Rallycross.
They never came up here, so I don't know. Maybe they just weren't getting enough attendance.
I don't know. It was a good time that year I went. I mean, it's all electric stuff now, so I didn't really wasn't as into it, but I wanted to check it out this year. I think it's mid-November. Or it was. It's gone now. So it's canceled. So oh well. Maybe if it comes back, we'll see. But as of right now, it's all future events are canceled. So 24 and 25 season canceled. So anyway, I think that's a podcast, Andrew.
That is a podcast. All right. Follow us, Odd Off Topic Podcast, on Facebook if you want, if you're still on there. Odd Off Topic on Instagram and Threads. A lot more active on there. And I'm Race and Anger on Instagram and Threads. And come visit the Discord. Send us a message. We'll get you a link to join. And Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram and Threads, TSISS350. I did just finally post up a picture of the Mighty Max on my page and the Auto Off Topic page. Hadn't done that yet. Excuse me, the Ram 50. So yeah, they can find me in those two places, and anywhere else that we have auto topic related stuff, I post sometimes as well.
We also have Scale Autocast. Did you say that?
I don't think I did.
Or did I blank on it? Yeah, we're going to have some more. I've got some more RC car content coming.
I do as
I got
well.
a,
I refurbished one of my early first generation Mini Zs the other day.
Yeah, I should do that to mine because I have it here. It's all set up. I have a full option one that I bought like every option part for it ever.
I have one of those too. That's the next one to get refurbished.
And I broke the steering tire on it using it once, and I don't know why. I just like put it away. So
Well, we put
maybe
them
I didn't have the
away.
part or something.
We put them away because the racetrack that we were taking them to closed.
Yeah, I remember using it inside my parents' house and like driving into a wall and it broke, and then I was like annoyed, and I didn't have the part maybe or something, so I'll have to figure it out. But
Interesting. I have multiple steering rods for it if you need one. So
there are,
different camber adjustments.
I believe, there
toe
are
adjustments.
also receiver updates that I can convert it to a newer receiver to work with the newer transmitter.
There's
which would be
tons of
interesting.
stuff. There are even other companies now who are making full chassis to run Mini Z bodies and parts. Like Team Associated now is doing a Mini Z size chassis for like racing that accepts Mini Z bodies and stuff. So I took it out because I learned that my local RC shop that does crawler competitions does Mini Z races as well. And I was like, oh, I got a Mini Z. I'll take care of that. And then I was looking at Mini Zs now. And if I showed up with this Mini Z, I would be like, laughed out
Hey,
the building.
Grandpa.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't realize.
Where'd you get that thing?
There's been like 7 different chassis since the first one came out. So
Did you buy that at the antique store?
Yeah. No, I paid a lot of money for it when it was brand new, newest, greatest thing. I'm just middle-aged.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I know I have several of the bodies still hanging around because I never used them. I have them on display because they're really nice at the time.
I think I have like 15 or so bodies that have never been used.
But I also bought an Orlando Hunter Tundra kit. It's not actually a Tundra, but it's definitely a Tundra.
Sure. Yeah, none of this stuff's licensed, but it's all like one emblem away from needing a licensing.
Yeah, it's an IFS truck kit.
Yep.
It's very scale. It's a lot more scale than your Piero. It's a lot more scale than the Ford. I was looking at comparison videos.
Sure.
And it's 1/32, but it actually scales out closer to 1/24.
Correct.
And the wheelbase is very similar, or it should be the same as my Tamiya Piero kit that I have.
So you can make
like
a very accurately detailed
the model kit,
24th scale full RC.
Yeah,
which
so that's gonna be
I
one
did
of
have the idea first and told you I was going to do it, but then
you did.
Cool.
You
cool.
did.
You just took my idea. So now I need to also buy it and do it before you do it, so that I can have it done.
It sounds like we should do a team build here. Try to encourage each other to build one because it's probably going to be my winter project to try to get myself back into building model kits, is to bridge it with an RC car.
Okay. Well,
because
I'll have to pick the kit up and I'll make that my first scale project on the clean bench in the garage.
Yeah, because it's an interesting little kit where it's set up. Like,
if you don't have jeweler's goggles, like our jeweler's magnifier,
yeah,
you're gonna need to buy one. Yeah, because they're super nerdy, and I wasn't going to use it, and then I used it, and it's life changing. And the size of the fittings on that kit are impossible to see or use without it. You also need to make sure you have a really good precision toolkit.
Comes with some tools.
It does, but they're garbage and don't use them.
All right.
I'll send you a link to the kit that I have. It was a lifesaver. It's just a Harbor Freight precision screwdriver set, but it works significantly better than everything else that is available to use in small sizes. That's fairly affordable. It's like the 34-piece precision screwdriver set. All the tips and bits that you need are in that set. So
yeah,
helped out a lot.
I bought one that was for the SCX 24. That's nice. But
Okay.
anyway, we
might be
stuck a
correct,
little
so.
scale autocast in here at the end.
We
anything
did
else?
actually. If you want to talk really quick about Scale Autocast, I picked up the new Hot Wheels Japanese historic set, so JH4.
Mhm.
I have a new way of buying the stuff when I want to buy it, because in this market here, I don't know what your market has been like there, but the premium cars never hit the shelves, even in Walmart. People are buying them before they even get on the shelf to
Yeah,
resell
I
them.
haven't seen anything in months.
I haven't seen anything. And I was actually in a Target not that long ago, and I walked over to the aisle, and there was a worker who came up while I was working there and started talking to me. So obviously I wanted to crawl into the cabinet and die. But nonetheless, we talked about the diecast stuff, and he says that there are 2 dudes that show up there at opening almost every morning and see if they have new Hot Wheels cars. And he goes, they're so frustrating. He goes, he's gotten to the point where he knows they're coming and he will on purpose hide things out back until they leave. But they've gotten wise to it, and now they ask his manager to bring them out if he says no. And they buy all the good stuff before it ever even hits the shelf. And my guess is if they're both going to that one Target, they're probably going to every store in
They're going to
town.
all of them.
Yeah, which is part of the reason
Those
I never
resellers.
found anything. Super annoying. Like, people who like want to enjoy this stuff, like, want to enjoy it. Like, don't be a jerk. But what I have found is that when you see the new stuff that you want appearing on like Instagram pages, if you go on eBay, there are not resellers, but there are, I don't know what to call them. I guess they're distributors basically that list them on eBay. And I wound up buying the full set of 5 cars for actually less than it would have cost me in the store without any extra effort or work. So in the store, they're about $6 a piece. And so that brings the 5 car set to $30. I think I paid $28 with shipping for all 5 cars. So definitely the way to go if there's a set out there that you want. You just got to jump on those deals early before they get into the reseller market. So anyway, the new Japanese Historics Hot Wheels set is super good. There's 2 new castings in it. One is a Prince Skyline, the original race car, the blue 1964 GTB car. I'm sure you've seen pictures of it. That company in, is it Utah, Japanese classics, or Japanese, the ones that had a TV show.
Yeah.
They restored one a few years ago and made a replica of the race car. That's a brand new one. And there's a TE27 Mango, which is the Toyota Corolla from the 70s. That's one of the nicest $5 Hot Wheels that I've seen in a long time. So they are worth getting if you can find them. If you can find them on eBay still cheap, they're definitely worth picking up. So very cool. The other cars are the RX-3 that Liberty Walk just built, first gen Honda Civic, and an S30 Z car. But the 2 standouts are the Corolla and the Skyline for sure. So, but yeah, don't overpay on eBay because that's encourages the jerks who are stealing them from the stores. But if you can find an actual distributor who sells them online, they just sell them at retail or less, and that's the way to go. So,
Okay.
that's all.
Cool.
Yep. Nerdy
All right.
scale car stuff hidden at the end of the podcast.
That's right. So, as always,
It's like the Marvel
keep
after.
cars analog. Yeah. Keep cars analog and aim for roses.